Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we are going to do a cheeky little range review for the Grey Knight. Now, I have to admit, there is not a vast amount of unique Grey Knightness available to review, but that's why I thought we'd do one today. Today's a 2-video day, so let's just do a little short one. We're going to start with Grandmaster Voldus. By the way, all the vehicles for the Grey Knights, pretty much anyone can take, with the notable exception of one, and so the rest of it will show up in the Space Marines range review, which we will start on Friday. That's going to be absolutely days long. So, let's start with Grandmaster Voldus. I have to admit, I actually quite like this model. I have my usual complaint regarding the state of his head, but that's just because you all know at this point I prefer a helmet to a bare head. I will say, his head doesn't look too bad. His kind of his psychic hood thing, I think, is unflattering, but then again, he doesn't really care about that, does he? One of the I wouldn't say too rare situations, because I think the Grey Knight Terminators do a slightly better job of having just mildly more reasonable shoulder placement than a lot of the normal Terminators. And the rare situations where he doesn't look like some sort of hunched ape. It does help that there is so much bulky armour going on his shoulders that, in a way, it kind of obscures where the arm should even begin, which helps a lot. Little details on this guy, like the massive tome on the back, the little book to the side, the fact that the large book is over the cloak. I actually quite like that. That's a fun touch. Got a nice amount of iconography, but it's not, I wouldn't say it's excessively busy. There's a fair bit going on, but it's not actually too cluttered, and it's no more cluttered than pretty much any other Grey Knight. So overall, I think a pretty decent character, and I do like the purity seals on the hammer. That's a nice touch. That is definitely a nice touch. Overall, I think Voldus is pretty solid. Not really any complaints about Voldus at all. Maybe like to see him with a Grey Knight Terminator helmet, but that's just personal preference. Also, the little wings coming out of the kind of modified chest, neck, shoulder bits of his armour are a nice touch. I like those. So, next up we have Brother Captain Stern, who is a resin lad. And that is not a face that's aged well, is it, really? That's a face that only a mother could love. A little bit wonky, a bit weirdly pinched around the lower half of the face. I don't think it's too bad a model. I think there are just aspects of it that haven't aged all that well. It's the same situation that you get with a lot of the older resin characters, whereby they don't necessarily look terrible. They just don't look as good as newer things. And you can there's a big difference between old Voldus here and Stern. Like, Voldus just looks so much more crisp and clean and new. I'd say the posture's a bit better. The scaling looks a little bit better. Stern looks a little bit squat, and a little bit pinched in the face in places. And the detail just isn't as fine. Nowhere near as fine, actually, especially when you look at like the writing on the armor around the legs. Not terrible, but he's not aged brilliantly. Now, Castellan Crow, actually, I think has aged pretty well. I think it looks pretty decent. It looks alright. It's still a decent model. Again, not too cluttered, not too clustered. Overall, pretty good. And the back banner is always... love a back banner. Love a back banner. I don't know. I like to see them on other people's models, but I hate them on mine. Is that hypocritical? Yes, probably. Castellan Crow he looks pretty decent. He does look pretty decent. Plus, he's an absolute animal for carrying that sword around. Just using it as a normal sword. What a hero. He's a cool character, and the model is decent. So I love the writing on some of these. Just Redemption Sword written on his armour, just in case you were wondering. Now, moving on, the man himself, Khaldor Drago. This is definitely a model whereby he looks way better with the helmet on. He just looks so much chunkier. just I don't know, so much more intimidating. Just so much more intimidating. I actually quite like the model. I think the pose could do a bit of work. Like, I think maybe it could be altered a little bit now. This is another one where it's not bad by any means. It's not a bad model. It just could do with being that little bit more crisp in places. But that's pretty much it. I'm 99% sure that he is resin too. Yes, yeah, he is. I thought he was. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Crow's plastic, actually. Just do a quick double check. Oh, he's resin. Wow. Oh, I'll tell you what. I'm surprised by that. I really thought he was plastic. He's aged for that's kind of ridiculous. Like, when you look at that and then you look at that. I mean, I don't know whether the paint job is something to do with it as well, but I would not have placed. I would not. Yeah, no, that's a Crow's holding up real well, especially compared to Stern. Drago's like in the middle of those two. Not quite as crisp as Crow, but more crisp and aged better than Stern. He does look good. It is a good model. It's a good model. Maybe a little bit static now, maybe a little bit lifeless, but the sword and shield is a really cool look. The fact he's still got the storm bolter over the wrist and the arm holding the shield is cool. It does look decent. Really does. Now, the brother captain, again, resin, I think this has aged pretty damn well, to be fair. I really like this model. The shield, the little kind of, I forget the name of it, the little shield, there's a specific name, and I cannot remember what it is for the life of me, that he's got is a little big, it's a little excessive, it kind of looks like it shouldn't be where it is. The way he's got his arm raised, it's a little hard to tell, we can't spin the model around, but the way he's got his arm raised, it looks like if he put his arm down, he'd clock himself in the face with the corner of the shield, which is not a great look. It sort of seems a bit tacked on where it didn't need to be. I think you might be able to assemble that without the shield. Ooh, can you? I can't remember. I did have this guy once. I can't remember whether he had the shield moulded onto the shoulder pad or not. Tricky. I wouldn't want to call it either way, but yeah, maybe it's a good looking model. It does look nice. Again, some of the detail is not quite there now. The writing on the armor is almost illegible. That's the thing that surprised me with Crow. That's why I thought he was plastic, because his writing is super crisp and clean. This is not that. This is definitely not that. But he's still cool, and I really like the really long purity seal that goes around the weapon. It looks good. Okay, moving on. Now we have the Paladins and we have the Terminators. Obviously, quite similar looking. Bodies are pretty much the same, but I think they hold up. For the most part, they hold up. The scale of them doesn't look quite right. Now that we have Primaris, much though I know there's a significant divide on liking or disliking Primaris, the scale of them is better. And it really is showing up some of the other models quite badly now. The Terminators and Paladins both look that little bit too squat. I would really like to see them get an update that meant they were scaled a bit better. I'd really like that. I don't know how likely that is. And I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming at some point Games Workshop will Primarisify them. I don't know why they wouldn't. I feel like they could do with something just to bulk them up and out a bit, because they just look that bit too squat now. Now we have so many things to direct compare them with. The actual models themselves do still look decent though. They might still be kind of the old scale, but they do still look good. There's still a nice amount of detail. The script on the armor is pretty much perfect and clean on these models. I have had this kit a couple of times, mostly for just kit bashing the hell out of other stuff. But I have dabbled with Grey Knights occasionally, and it is a decent kit, and you do get a lot. You get quite a bit of stuff to mess about with. Get a good selection of weapons. Get a lot of things like purity seals and stuff like that. Yeah, you can see you get a really good selection of weapons. You got like the force halberds and the falchions and all kinds of stuff. Falchions? Is that what they are? Either way, lots of those little tiny shields, which are really handy, and the helmets are great. The Grey Knight helmets are they're properly iconic. You know what they are when you see them. I will say I prefer the helmets that are used on the Terminators to the Paladins, technically. I think I prefer the more angular look. The Paladin ones, got their sort of a bit more rounded, and they have that kind of point that comes up slightly between the eyes. I do prefer the helms on the Terminators, but they both look decent, let's be honest. There's not much of a separation between the two. They are, apart from being a little bit squat, they're holding up well. Now, the Strike Squad, this confused me thoroughly, by the way, because I was like, I know there's the Strike Squad, and there's the Interceptor Squad, and there's a Purifier Squad. They're all just under Strike Squad. I'm not sure when that happened, but the other two aren't even listed. As far as I know, those are still options that you can take, so I'm not entirely sure why they're not listed in any capacity on the website. I think it's a bit confusing. Again, these same as the Terminators. I think overall they look decent. Overall they look good. They just... The scale is just not quite there anymore. The standard Space Marines always looked a bit squat. They always did. But it wasn't a problem because every Space Marine looked like that. And now that we have Space Marines that don't look a bit squat, that actually have, correct proportions, it's kind of affected the other ones negatively in that it's so much more noticeable how squat they are. And it's a shame because I really like the Grey Knights, and I do like their models for the most part. They're a properly unique Space Marine chapter, and it'd be kind of nice to have them get a bit of love here and there. But they do still hold up. They do still look decent. So on the sprues, the little details and stuff. Holding this Slaneshi demon head, I don't think I can approve of that. On the sprues you can see you've got the different backpacks that have got the thingies sticking out, because they're not like jump infantry, are they? They do weird warpy tunnel stuff, and you do have those backpacks with the kind of antenna things on them. So you can still build that squad. It's all lumped into one. You just can't see it on the site, which is not a great way to do it, to be honest with you. It really shouldn't be. It shouldn't be that enclosed and hard to find. I mean, if you're already a Grey Knights player, then you'd know to do that. But if you're looking into starting the army, you go, oh, okay, Interceptor Squads, where do I get those from? And they're just not on the website, then that's not helpful. Last but not least, we had to save it for last, didn't we? The Baby Carrier. The Baby Carrier. Oh, what can we say about this? So close to greatness, this model. So close. If they just made it a dreadnought and not like a piloted mech suit where a dude is just hanging out the front of it with some invulnerable force field bullshit going on, it would have been fine. I don't think anyone would have minded. No one would have complained. It would have just been like, oh man, they get like a tall psycho dreadnought. That's awesome. Instead, we get this, and there you can do a lot to fix the issue, and it is an issue. It doesn't look good. I don't. This just why it's such a baffling decision. If it wasn't for the guy hanging out the front, it would be such a good model. I will say, when it comes to posing this thing, god awful, not good to pose at all. It's really not a versatile kit from what I remember. I don't think you can really repose the legs in any way, shape or form. It's been a while since I've put it together, but I'm pretty sure it's not easy to mess with. I mean, the fact that every single picture just shows exactly the same pose for the legs is a decent indication, to be honest. I mean, it's fixable. You can mess with it. You can do stuff with it to make it a bit more dynamic, and it luckily doesn't take a huge amount to fix the front of it. You can just stick the front of a Dreadnought sarcophagus onto it, but it does require sacrificing a Dreadnought to do that, because you do need pretty much the whole front of it, which is not ideal. A possible solution to that is, of course, just plenty of plasticard, bit of green stuff to fill in the odd gap. If you wanted to go a bit more hardcore, you could take the front off a Penitent engine, which I'm sure there'll be some of those on like eBay. Get the enclosed one. So there are ways around it. It's just why did they decide to do that in the first place? So yeah, let's just have a quick look at the. There you go. You can see on the sprue that the legs are just, they are how they are. As I say, you can mess with them a bit, but it's not easy. It's a bit of a pain, if I remember correctly. It should be dynamic, but it's not. But where there's a will, there's a way. Also, the fact the armors are in that same position every time is really irritating as well. Luckily, you can, because they've got like ball joints. You can mess with them a bit, but only a bit, because of the way that these bits out the top stick out. Like the struts that move the arms are nonsensical, which is a bit of a shame. Let's see if we can find those on the sprues, because that's another like missed opportunity. I'm sure we saw them before, but I've lost them now. Yeah, there we go. So for some reason the arms are in a ball joint, but then when you put the two halves of the torso together, you end up with this little shallow recess where you can put the supports for the arms, but they can only move up or down. They can't move side to side, which surely means that the arms would not function, which is an annoying oversight. And again, one of those things where you're just like, why did you do this? But you can mess with it a bit if you want to. I'm now actually really starting to remember how much of a pain in the arse this was to put together, and how gutted I was that you couldn't pose it. I don't even know what I did with it. I think I might have been putting it together for someone else, thinking about it. So I'm just going to quickly go through and see if anyone's done a fix for that's a Leviathan. Not a Leviathan. That's a Contemptor with a Grey Knight sword. Very nicely painted Contemptor with a with a Nemesis Dread Knight sword, but still, that's got nothing to do with anything. Why are you sure? What? The answer is no. There's no pictures of fixes on there, but it could have been so good. Luckily, it's fixable. Anyway, that's the Grey Knights. That is the Grey Knight specific stuff. We will cover all the vehicles, because that's all Space Marine stuff anyway in the Space Marines one. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Let me know what you think of all of those in the comments down below. Do you have a particular favourite? Do you think that out of the different characters, the single models, which one do you think aged the best, and why do you agree that it's Crow? And what is your personal fix for the Dread Knight? What do you do to change yours to make it look less silly? Let me know in the comments. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things, Patreon, video, subscribe, all that stuff. Click it if you like, don't click it if you don't want to. And as always, there's an affiliate link in the description for Element Games. Nice way to support the channel if you want to. They are shipping again now, so that is something you can do if you would like. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.